Hello and welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Ayman Khan here, joined by today with the Sun boxing reporter Wally Downes Jr. Wally, good to see you, albeit over the internet. How's life?
Good, son. A lot better since I've seen how strong your haircut game is today.
No one on the other side can see my hair. The camera's pinned on you, but maybe the public will get to see it over the boxer fight week, which I'm looking forward to. But we're not here to talk about the boxer fight week. I want to go straight into it, Wally. We had the news drop late last night. Riyadh Al Samurai put out on the Daily Mail the latest regarding the Conor Benn developments, and that is that he has lost the appeal case that was going on between British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD. Just reading that, were you expectant of that being the outcome, Wally?
First of all, I thought all the boxing YouTube channels now were showing the interviewer. I thought you would be on screen.
I'll leave it all for the subject, I guess.
Jesus. So they can't see what I can see.
No, they can't.
Can't see the background.
No, they can't.
Jesus, boys. I can even see the back of your head through that mirror. Worse than mine. Was I surprised to see it? No, because I think the hearing happened quite a while ago. And I think the information was spread, I think, last week. Again, really good reporting by Riyadh. Very accurate, without trying to drum up too much speculation. I think the situation that arose out in Saudi drove home to us that they weren't going to get the result that they wanted. Conor and Manny were both in Riyadh, both at the press conference. Sorry, the Thursday weigh-in, and it looked like they were about to announce a fight. And then out of nowhere, it basically got pulled. Michael Buffer was halfway through announcing them as being there, and then they disappeared. It was very strange. It was clumsy. And then sort of asking a few questions around the fallout of that had been clear. I think they still didn't know, or they still weren't sure. But we were getting the impression by then that if Matchroom and DAZN and Conor had known or had a good inkling, then they would have probably gone public with some stuff. And instead, I mean, I still think they were probably confident start of that week. Maybe stuff changed during that week. But by the end, certainly by the time we landed at Heathrow on the Friday fight Saturday, we were under the impression that it wasn't going to go. It wasn't going to go their way. I mean, it's like as soon as you wake up this morning. More recently, that this case has just sort of gone not under the radar, but it's been on the back burner. There's been huge Saudi fights. There was an excellent card in Birmingham 2 weeks ago. There was an excellent show in Sheffield at the weekend. And it's good that Conor's case isn't at the forefront of boxing news, and that shows like that are. We did blogs online, both those blogs for not huge shows were the biggest thing we did that week, I think. So that's good that the attention is off, and that that it's not always being drummed. We're not always being pelted with the ideas that the board is at fault and that Conor's going to be cleared and he's going to fight A, B, C, D, and E. They've handled it much better around this time. But yeah, again, sort of this morning in this sort of small boxing bubble that we live in, where we think that boxing is the most important thing in the world, and really it's like the 10th most important sport in Britain. Videos get pinged around of how Matchroom have approached it, not so much recently, but perhaps a bit too aggressive or confident with reporters towards the board, towards UKAD, adamant that they're going to win, adamant that the evidence that they had to show the NADP in the first instance to get his suspension lifted would be strong enough to beat an appeal. Well, that's not been the case. And again, in Riyadh's report, I don't think he mentions the word jurisdiction, so I apologise for mentioning it if I shouldn't do. But I think that is the suggestion, is that is the case that they've put forward, that perhaps UKAD have no right to make a decision. But again, when Eddie has spoken, to all the guys, to all the extensive interviews that he does, he's adamant that isn't the case. It's not based on jurisdiction, and it is based on science. So, not entirely sure where it leaves us. The board are clearly maybe scarred from what happened with Tyson Fury, when the case with him threatened to bankrupt the board, and maybe that's never going to happen again. They're running the Saudi shows, which will be earning them a good living. So I guess that their last resort now is to go to CAS, and then it will all become public, and then we'll get a resolution. We'll see. If they're so confident and so sure, as we're constantly told that they are, then get to CAS and sort it out, because the board will not have it.
Just before we get to conversations surrounding the CAS or CS, as it was, what have you been your conversations with the British Boxing Board of Control at all, or Ben Sim at all, throughout the whole case so far?
Nothing really from the board at all. A good few times over the phone and in person, I've asked for very, very basic clarity on things, and Robert Smith just prefers not to, and I have absolutely no problem with that. I think they should be, the fiasco around the beginning when they were feeding TalkSport information, and it came up very publicly, where Simon Jordan accused Eddie Hearn of being a liar about something. Eddie, hit back at that. Suddenly there was this clumsy dialogue where Simon Jordan had to contact Robert Smith in the middle of a broadcast and essentially admit that between them there was either a lie told or a gross misunderstanding. So, we don't. I don't think it's just, well, maybe it's just me, but the board aren't giving much away, and that's how it should be. Conversations with Conor, I haven't really had much, to be honest, mate. Again, I think probably too much media at the beginning made people at the board and UKAD probably unhappy, might have shaped how things have moved. So I think it's been handled much better more recently. And it's better when things like this happen quietly and behind closed doors. But both sides accuse the other of bad stuff all the time. The one thing that has been frustrating, that because both sides are saying the opposite, is that I think Conor's gone public and said that, and Eddie has as well. They claim that they have regularly asked the board to have a meeting, to look through all his evidence, to go through it all. And when I've approached Robert at shows in person, not just me, like the other guys, the other reporters, and we have said, are you refusing to look at the evidence? Are you refusing a meeting? The sort of general reply has been that they haven't offered the evidence. They have not sent them the evidence. So that is sort of the real crux of it. One side is saying one and one side is saying the other. So it's difficult to pick who you want to believe there, really, because they're both very powerful forces and they're both adamant in their side of the story.
Naturally, we'll get the developments as and when they come. But as of right now, I think Riyadh has reached out to Ben's representatives and they've maintained that Conor is still free to fight. And there's no suspension or resuspension, as it would be, I guess, in this case, applied to Ben as of this moment. But yeah, it heads towards potentially for CAS to arbitrate over there. What do you feel, knowing a bit about CAS, as to the likelihood of success for Ben and his team going forward if it is to reach CAS?
well, that's incredibly difficult because 1 minute it was a 270, 240 page document. For a long time, it was their boast. We have a 240 page document, 270 page document. And then rather dramatically, a little while ago, it was a 40 page document. So we don't know how big this document is, let alone what's in it. So I have no idea. You know, I none of us know what evidence they have to prove that Conor is innocent. The WBC, in clearing him, looked at a folder of evidence, and they chose to say contamination with eggs. Later on, Conor and his team refuted that and said that that is not what they believed. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be like, you know, you or I being, you know, up in court for something and someone saying, how do you think they'll get on, without knowing what evidence they have to prove their innocence. You know, really impossible to say, mate, to be honest. I would need tinted glasses and then a battery-powered cigarette to have all the answers to that.
What about, do you feel that they might still try to get Conor Benn out, you know, fight on the foreign licenses and such whilst this is going on? That's what's been happening over in America. He fought Pete Thompson in Las Vegas. But does it mean or do you think there will be the immediate end to Benn's fighting future for this year as this continues on?
Well, those fights have only happened since the suspension's been lifted. I think that's right, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And that, as of right now, has still not been reapplied. Yeah, absolutely,
mate. Yeah. So, yeah, by all means, Conor, until we know, I'm sure Riaf will be ahead of that story. Until we know if that suspension is still lifted or if the suspension is reinforced, and then the situation becomes where if Conor still doesn't want a British Boxing Board of Control license, which I think he has said repeatedly, he feels like the relationship with the board is over, that there's no way back. But Eddie Hearn in his interviews often and always says that Benn's fan base is in the UK. He wants him to fight in the UK. He wants him to fight under a UK license. So again, that's sort of two people in the same camp going in opposite directions. So that needs to be cleared up. If Conor does choose to fight on a foreign license, from what I understand, he still has to get permission from the board. I remember when Tyson first started, Tyson's first sort of UK fight after rebuilding his career in America was, I asked the board, would he have any problems? Because the case, his doping case dating back to 2015 was still ongoing. I think Riaf did a story not even that long ago that case could still be looked at. You know, there's still issues there. So if Conor goes away and gets a foreign license and applies to the British Boxing Board of Control, as far as I understand, they withhold the right to say, yes, no problem. But they also withhold the right to say, you're not in good standing with the British Boxing Board of Control. And we refuse you the right to box under our license. And then Eddie could still get him a fight in the UK on a different license, as I think they've looked at before. Or he could just continue to fight him abroad. But I think they will have learned that those abroad shows will not make them any money, and they will cost them money. You know, Conor was a big star. The Eubank fight was on the cusp of being a huge financial success, a massive O2 sellout, a massive pay-per-view. And since then, all he's had is two, small hall shows in America. So, yeah, Eddie will know that the commercial benefit of having Conor Benn lies in the UK. He will need him to have a license. Yeah, because I don't think those big US fights are really going to happen, and they're certainly not going to probably make bundles of money.
Wally, we'll leave that there for now. Obviously, a very much developing situation, and more details will be drip fed through as and when we gladly receive them. But an interesting case that's been followed, and a saga that's been going on for a long time, which we need a resolution for, not only for us viewing it, but I'm sure as well for all parties concerned. Thank you for coming on and talking about it as well too. Catch up very soon, and maybe get you on as well when the next development comes through too.
I want to make it abundantly clear that I have to be pestered for these. No, not pestered, very politely asked. And as friends, we help each other out, don't we?
That's right.
But I was quite surprised to see recently that one of the boxing journalists sort of hosts, he puts you all in a queue, these YouTube channels, and he goes through each one and gives his opinion. I thought that was quite strange. Should be more journalism to do, really. But there you go, sunshine. Funny old world we live in at the minute, isn't it?
Funny old world indeed.
When I see you, are you coming down for the show this weekend?
We'll be there, sure. I'll be there.